getting recorded. So if you've got specific questions, as I start rolling through stuff, throw it in the chat. I'll try to work it into this presentation if possible. I always do a handful of disclaimers, and so here are some of my disclaimers. Let's see here. I will do my best to finish all of my sentences and to keep things linear with the delivery. The internet's not linear. It's anything but linear, so it's tough sometimes, and we at times need to make a little jump over to something else. I have a fire station across the street from my house. You'll probably hear it go off at some point in the next 2 hours. It's really loud, apparently, from your perspective. I also have a tin roof, and so if it starts raining, it might get a little loud. If you guys can't hear me for any reason, just put something in the chat, give me a heads up, and I'll move my mic closer, or just close my door or something like that. Let's see here. My name is Boomer Sassman. My primary business is called Big Boom Design, and we've been in business about going on 14 years now. My whole team is locally based in and around Asheville, and we used to have an office on Haywood Road until the pandemic, and then we shut it down. So everybody works remote now, and I have a handful of other businesses that I'm either full owner of or partial owner of. And the reason I bring that up in this presentation is because they're e-commerce businesses. And my kind of obsession or passion with websites and tracking and data related to the web has pulled me or led me into some of these other side businesses. So part of that came from a frustration that I had years ago where folks would hire me and the company to build a website for them to make a lot of money selling their product or selling their service. And I realized, I was like, we're doing this for other people. Why can I not find a product or a service or create a business outside of Big Boom Design that is, mailbox money or passive income or something like that? So I a couple years ago made that a point to try to do that for myself based on what we had done for other people. So I've got a handful of other businesses that I'll bring up and talk about that help kind of illustrate what you can do with e-commerce. So that's kind of the end of the disclaimers. Let's see here. This has been an interesting year and a half for all of us, and it's been a very interesting year for e-commerce. E-commerce was already going up. It was already climbing. People were, trying to figure out how to create ebooks or build blogs and generate, ad revenue, create products or redefine products, purchase products from other people, mark them up and sell them as their own, lots of stuff. And that was already happening. And then the pandemic hit, and it forced businesses to close their doors or go to limited hours or limited capacity. And it forced people out of certain jobs. And so, in a lot of cases, there were people that all of a sudden needed to create another revenue stream to support their life. So e-commerce over the past year and a half has exploded. At a time when it was already on the rise due to things like, Amazon and Shopify and some of these other, and Etsy and some of these other platforms that were already kind of pushing this rock up the hill. And then I think the biggest thing that happened is we all of a sudden had all this time at home and time to shop online and needing to have new stuff in our lives because our lives had kind of been cut back a little bit. And so in some cases that purchasing of e-commerce related stuff gave us that outlet. So I don't have any specific stats to throw out, but e-commerce over the past 15 to 18 months has gone through the roof at a quicker rate than it ever has previously. So with that trend, we got a lot of requests from a lot of clients, existing clients and new clients that needed help building a website or adding e-commerce to a website. And so my goal here is to walk through the process of setting up a WordPress website, loading WooCommerce, which is the primary e-commerce plugin, and I'll kind of dissect that statement in a minute. And then how to style it, and then some of the key things that you're going to need in place to do payment and shipping and taxes and all that kind of stuff. Like I said before, it is almost impossible for me to cover everything that I need to cover to talk about how to build a full-blown, very successful e-commerce business in 2 hours. It's a joke to try to do that, but I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to hit what I think are the, let's say, 10 really important topics. And then based on some questions that might pop up and based on what I think people might be interested in, I'll mention some add-ons and some of the next steps that you can try to take to kind of further the journey, the e-commerce journey. So the other thing that I guess is one last little disclaimer is that I'm not a fan of PowerPoints or just standard static uh, presentations. Specifically in our industry, it moves really fast, and so as soon as I make a PowerPoint presentation with screenshots or step by step, it changes. And I did it for years, and then finally realized I'm just going to do live demos. And so the reason I do that is because it's going to be different from the last time that I ran through it. And in a weird kind of humbling way, it helps you guys, I think, see the fact that we'll get to certain steps that are brand new steps or brand new options that they have kind of put in front of us. And you shouldn't be nervous to just like click some options and read through and then try to get it set up. You can always roll things back. You can always start back over. That's the really cool thing about the web and building websites is that it's so fluid. And I really love that element. So I try to kind of embrace the spontaneousness of some of these presentations, and they're like a little interesting snapshot of how things are right now, but it's going to change moving forward. So that's frustrating and stressful for some people. It's exciting for other people. Probably not many of you, but that's how it goes anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And all right. And I've got three screens in front of me. I've got my camera up above this one. I've got my notes to make sure I cover the highlights. And then I've got the actual screen that I'm sharing over here. So if you see me glancing around, that's what I'm doing. So what we've got on the screen right now is a GoDaddy landing page here. I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit about why we're starting here. GoDaddy is a hosting company. They host websites. You can get domains from them. They have a lot of other products as well. They are the biggest in the business. They're not the best necessarily. They're kind of the McDonald's. They're the biggest and the fastest and the cheapest. And so one of the things, though, one of the reasons why I start with GoDaddy is because if you've got a domain name, it's probably with GoDaddy. I'm not trying to push anybody to use GoDaddy specifically. You can use any hosting company that you want to host your website. I am also going to talk a little bit about the fact that if you haven't taken a class from me or from somebody else that talks about how to build a website, specifically a WordPress website, there might be a few elements of what I'm getting ready to go through that you don't really understand. And so if that's the case, I encourage you to go either sign up for one of the WordPress classes that I teach in the future or go watch one in the past. But you do need some basic understanding about, you have to host a website somewhere. You have to pay for hosting. And those types of things. You have to have a domain name and it has to be pointed to your hosting account, stuff like that. So for teaching purposes, I have a GoDaddy 5 website pack. And so it's this managed WordPress. And so I'm going to go in to, it says 4 sites. I'm going to click on manage here. And so again, it's a 5 pack. I can have 5 individual websites. I spin these up to teach various classes. So I'm going to go ahead and just click create site. The process is the exact same if you've got a single site or a 5 pack or a 25 pack, whatever it is. And it's similar even if you're not at GoDaddy, if you're at Bluehost or HostGator or SiteGround or wherever. So this first step is saying, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to look through templates? Do you want to just set up a WordPress site, which is what we're going to do? Or do you want to migrate an existing site? So we're going to say we're going to manually create a WordPress install. It's going to ask me for a username and a password. Let's get that plugged in there. It's going to ask us this kind of random question about data location or server location. North America is fine. And here's where it kind of just sits for a second. And so I'll try to keep talking and keep everybody interested while it basically builds a blank WordPress website. So again, just a little recap. You don't necessarily have to have your domain yet if you want to just start building your site. You can get a hosting plan with GoDaddy or one of these other companies, and they'll give you like a temporary domain name. So once this finishes doing what it's doing here, it'll come back and it'll say here's your link to your website, and it's going to be some arbitrary 4 to 6 characters long, and it's going to be how we get to the WordPress website. So if you've taken a WordPress class from me, you know that I am not a big fan of picking the theme first. And it's going to kind of push us into doing that once we get this set up. But I'm going to quickly kind of bypass the theme selection, and we're going to talk primarily about WooCommerce. So while this is going, I want to give a little bit of background on WooCommerce and how it found its place on the internet, or how it found its place within WordPress these days. So WooCommerce was originally a plugin, and it was built, I'm sorry, let me back up. WooCommerce was originally a theme. It was a theme built for WordPress, and it was built by some little web company. And it was a theme that if you were using WordPress, you could get their theme and add it, and it would add some e-commerce capabilities to it. Well, that didn't work super well for a lot of people, because sometimes these folks have spent, tens of thousands of dollars to build out a custom theme. And you can't just say, we'll just change your theme. And so they pivoted, and they took all the WooCommerce e-commerce elements, and they made a plugin. So now what you can do is you can have any WordPress theme active on your site, and you can just load the plugin, and it adds the capabilities that you would expect from e-commerce. A store page, a checkout page, the ability to have categories and products, various prices for those products based on small, medium, large, or certain colors, different amenities, different variations, things like that. So there was a transition from WooCommerce as a theme to WooCommerce as a plugin, and that was a big transition years ago. So then fast forward a couple years, folks like Etsy and Shopify and BigCommerce come on the scene. And not necessarily in that order, but they started to have a platform that people could host their own products on, and they took care of a lot of the heavy lifting of e-commerce. And for a while, Shopify was like, we're the only ones that do this. We do it the best, and we're the biggest. And WordPress was like, nah, we can do that, and we can do it better. And it's free. So WordPress, the company, purchased WooCommerce. And when they did that, they rolled it in, and they basically said, keep doing everything that you guys are doing, developers. We're going to now throw a bunch of effort, money, time, developers towards you guys to just make what you're doing even better. And that was a handful of years ago, and that blew the doors off of e-commerce specific to WordPress. And that became like the core e-commerce platform that folks started to use. The big thing there that I'll reiterate is that it's free. WooCommerce itself is free. Once we get a little bit deeper, you'll realize, well, if you need to do subscriptions, that's a $200 add-on. If you need to do payments through a certain weird payment gateway, that's an $80 add-on. And there's add-ons along the way, but to just use a basic WordPress WooCommerce integration or site, it's free to do that. You only have to pay for hosting. All right, so back over to the screen share. The site has been built essentially. They've got a brand new, fresh website. I'm going to go ahead and click View My Site. To answer a question that just popped in, what are some hosting websites other than GoDaddy? I would say SiteGround is a good one that you could check out. I'm going to put that in the chat here, siteground.com. You can do something like Bluehost. Bluehost is kind of on the same cost level as GoDaddy, and they all kind of do the same stuff. And really, it comes down to support. And so my advice always is, rather than just sign up, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone and call. GoDaddy, Bluehost, SiteGround, whoever you want to go with. And if you have a bad experience, it's probably not going to get better as you actually run into issues that you need help with. So I'm a big fan of SiteGround. We've been using them for a long time. These days, we use hosting companies that are much larger and more expensive because we host hundreds of sites on those servers. Okay. This is, if you've never seen WordPress, this is kind of the right out of the box. This is a WordPress site with a basic single blog post as the homepage at the moment. We won't dig too deep into that, but WordPress natively, right out of the box, is a blogging platform. And you just have to change one little thing to make it a website platform, but it can do both inside of the same site. So we're going to kind of just dive straight into this and go straight in and load WooCommerce. So I'm going to click at the top left on the name of the site. That little black top admin bar, it stays with us as we kind of navigate around the front side, and then now the back side is what we're seeing here. And I'm going to go over here and click on plugins on the left in the middle of this black menu. And it does, in this case, this is a right out of the box WordPress site, but because it's hosted with GoDaddy, they have kind of pre-populated it with a handful of plugins that we can see in here. Some of those are active, some of those are not. We're not really going to pay too much attention to that right now. I'm going to come up here and click Add New. And because WordPress owns WooCommerce, and because WooCommerce is such a popular plugin, it shows up right here on this home screen. It's this one right here. So we don't even need to go searching for it. I will say, though, that if you come up here and you just type in the word Woo and you search, you're going to get a ton. There are 2,092 Woo related plugins. Okay, so that's overwhelming. And as we can see right here, there's about 5 million active installs of WooCommerce on the internet with inside of WordPress. That is one other thing I'll mention before somebody asks it, is you can't use WooCommerce without WordPress. WordPress is the platform that you build the website on. WooCommerce is what gives it the e-commerce capabilities. So I'm going to go ahead and click Install Now. And this is just grabbing all the files from whatever server it's on, pulling it onto the website. Again, since we're not going through the basics of building a WordPress site, this is kind of an advanced version of that. A plugin is basically something that extends the functionality of the website. So once this gets done, and this one takes a little bit longer because it's a behemoth of a plugin. It does a lot of stuff. So we'll let this go for a second here. It's getting there. It's thinking hard about this one. Oh, there we go. All right. So once it's installed, we're going to click Activate. And this is going to set off a series of screens that change every single time I do an install. Again, why I don't do PowerPoints or kind of structured presentations is because it's probably going to be out of date by the time you actually go to do it. So I'm going to click Activate, and this is going to quickly take us over to a screen that says, all right, let's get started setting up your store. And it's going to ask us a lot of questions to help us handle some of the settings along the way. And what I mean by that is it needs to know what state we're in so that it can appropriately pick the taxes. It needs to know physical address as far as where we're actually shipping stuff from. It needs to know what kind of payment gateways we might use. So I'm going to come in here and plug in some info. This is our old address over on Haywood Road. United, and then and see, now notice it's got the United States, and then it's got all of our states broken down here. And this, they used to just like say, all right, go dig through the settings and just plug all the stuff in. And then they realize that's a barrier of entry, and it's creating situations where people aren't charging tax correctly, or they're not able to even calculate shipping, things like that. So they have continuously refined this process to kind of onboard people a little bit better. All right, so there we've got an address plugged in. We'll click continue. There's a little pop-up asking about tracking. Are they allowed to track data? Totally up to you, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to get big data conspiracy theorists at the moment. We don't have time. Next thing is, what industry does your store operate inside of? I don't actually know what they change based on what you select here. I don't think they change anything about the setup process. I might be wrong about that. I think this is more about a benchmark for them to collect to see what types of sites are being built out there. So we'll go with, let's go with electronics and computers. So the next thing on here is By default, WooCommerce is made to handle physical products. There is also a digital option that's built into it, so we can turn on downloads. That's not going to change anything either. But then these next 4 or 5 options on here are tied over to add-ons. So there was a question about, subscriptions and memberships and bookings and things like that. Subscriptions, I think, was specifically the question earlier. And if you select one of these, it's going to go ahead and pre-populate and load that plugin, but you are going to have to pay for that little add-on. And I think they say like the per month price, but you have to pay for the whole year at a time, I'm pretty sure. Let's see here. So I'm going to leave those unchecked for now because we're going to try to just trim out all of the slightly more complicated things. We can circle back around if we've got time and dig a little bit deeper into subscriptions or memberships or bookings. They all get pretty complex pretty quickly, so I don't want to completely derail right at the very beginning. So I will click continue. We're going to sell physical products and digital downloads. How many products do you plan to display? Again, this doesn't change anything about the install, so we'll say 1 to 10. And then it's going to say, are you currently selling anywhere else? And so this is where if I click no, it comes up with some suggestions, and it's going to say, hey, we're going to load these other little add-ons based on what you picked. If you say yes, then it's going to ask you about revenue and other platforms. And I think there was just a question about, can you import a store catalog from another site such as Square, Etsy, Weebly, one of these other platforms? Yes and no. It depends on the other platform. Most of them will give you the ability to download like an Excel file. I just was on a call earlier today with somebody, and they have an Etsy store with hundreds of products, and they were going to just manually start moving stuff. And I just found a little tutorial that says, no, just go to these different screens and then export this Excel file, and it's got your product name, price, description, variations, SKU number, quantity, and that gives you a good head start. So the platform that you're migrating from is really going to dictate that. You can put anything into WordPress and WooCommerce, but you just got to get that data compartmentalized or cleaned up the right way. So I'm going to change this back to no, we're not selling on any other platforms. And I'm also going to turn these off again because we're just trying to get to kind of a plain vanilla install where we can look at the settings and look at the theme and stuff like that. It's tough to go run down these offshoots because it's not going to apply to some people or most people. So I'm just going to turn off these little toggles, and we'll click continue. Real quick to answer this question about multiple installs, you can't do multiple shopping carts inside of one WordPress install. You can create what's called a WordPress multi-site, which is multiple WordPress installs managed within one, and then you can have a shopping cart set up with each one of them. That also gets complex quickly. Okay, so I mentioned a few minutes ago that I'm not a fan of them kind of pushing us into the theme selection right off the bat, but we kind of have to. We could just say continue with my active theme, but it's boring. It's just that greenish, bluish, whatever color that might be, and it isn't a theme that's ready for WooCommerce. And what I mean by that is certain themes have certain sections of the homepage or different things that are already built to accommodate products and categories and things like that. And so the first one, and really the main one that we're gonna load here, is called Storefront, and it's free and it's built by WooCommerce, and so it's native in the sense that it was built right alongside of this plugin, so they work well together. So I'm going to click choose. Again, just like when we downloaded the plugin, it's going to go grab a copy of it. Shouldn't take too long here. So Storefront was loaded. That's great. It basically, a theme is just a new skin that you would kind of wrap around the website to make it look a certain way. And this next one is going to ask us about three different things. Store management on the go, which is basically an app. So it's going to coach you to go get the app so that you can kind of monitor your store from your phone, it's not a bad thing. The next one is automated sales tax, where it will, and this used to be an add-on, but they realized that everybody needs to do this, and that there were a lot of people not doing this because it was just one extra step. So they've got an automated sales tax element to it. if this business and this e-commerce store is the bulk of or the sole source of your income and it's a substantial thing for you, you're probably going to want to go and find a slightly more advanced sales tax system. There's one that I'll mention now so that I don't forget it later. It's called TaxJar, and it's a separate service that you have to sign up for. But it gets really granular and helps you really define sales tax based on your products and your geographic location. And then this other one here is improved speed and security. And this is really tied over to this little green icon, which is called Jetpack. For right now, I'm going to say no thanks. However, when you're going through this process, take a little bit more time and read through these different things and truly make sure that if you are going to need it, you should probably set it up in this phase and not just skip past it. I'm going to skip past it for the sake of time. Okay. Again, it kind of takes us into this little tutorial. It's going to hold our hand as we kind of walk through these next couple steps. It's going to explain that there's like this inbox and that there's, you can collect a bunch of data, all this stuff. So what I'm going to do at this point is let's go ahead and let me just open up the front of the website in another tab, and we'll just look to see what just happened. Not much. However, let's kind of talk about what's changed. So the theme changed. We changed from the 2020 or 2021 theme over to the storefront theme. Also, with the install of WooCommerce, it created a handful of pages. Okay, so we've got the home page, which again is currently set to our single blog post, and that's because WordPress is a blogging platform by default. We've got a cart page. There's nothing in the cart yet, but we got a page as a placeholder. We've got a checkout page. We've got a my account page. So if you do have a type of site where people are going to log back in to see their previous order history or something like that, all of this is kind of built right into it. And we can go in and we can, update this based on the fact that we're logged into the site. We've got a sample page. This is in there by default, and it's just to kind of help you get going with WordPress and how to edit content. And then we've got a shop. This is going to be like the top level storefront section where you can either show your categories or you can show your specific products listed out. So still looks pretty boring. We'll just kind of leave this how it is for the moment. And I'm going to jump back over and we're going to add my products. So I'm going to click on this one. And here's where we can go in and, there was a question about importing data over into this. And this is where we could say, yeah, we do have a big old CSV file of, product name, description, price, all that stuff. We can add it manually for just small stores, or we can use a template. So let's use the template. They recommend it apparently. So let's go ahead and do this. And in this case, let's do a physical product. Before I move on, let me explain what these three options are. Physical product, straightforward. It's a physical thing that you're going to ship to somebody, or they're going to pick up, whatever. But it's a physical product. The next one here is a digital product. This can be anything from a song, if you're a musician. It can be an app, if you're an app developer. It can be an ebook, if you want to do that. Anything digital that you want to take the money and then have them delivered that digital product instantly. And then a variable product is something that has variations of that product. So it's small, medium, large, or, let's say you have a hotel and you've got, rooms, but there's like 4 different styles of rooms or cabins or campsites or something like that. Those could be done as variable products where the price varies based on the option that the person picks. So I'll do a physical product. So if you've worked with WordPress at all, this is a really familiar screen. This is the screen that is what the pages screen looks like, the post screen looks like. It's what all the standard content sections inside of WordPress look like. So there are a few additions in the mix that I'll talk about here in a second, but right off the bat, let's just kind of follow their lead and just work through this. So the first thing is, product name. And so I'm going to come in here and let's do, try to come up with something random here. Let's do something like, let's do something like small pool table. I haven't shot pool in over a year and it's killing me. So anyway, so we'll do small pool table. I don't know where I came up with the small element of it, but small pool table will work, like one of those little like tabletop tables. Next, we're going to need a description. I'm going to leave the, that is Latin text. It's filler text. And so it's really just so that you can see how the text gets laid out, what the fonts look like, the colors, the sizes, that kind of stuff. It's just Latin text. But we'll leave that in there. So the next thing down, this next section down lower is, it's called Yoast SEO. I'm going to minimize this because this entire box that we're seeing here, this is only here because of a plugin. It's a very useful plugin, but if you set up your site on, let's say, Bluehost, anything other than GoDaddy, you might not have this Yoast plugin pre-populated. It's not a bad idea to go and get it, which you would go add it just the same way that we added WooCommerce. But for the purpose of getting through this, I'm going to minimize that little Yoast section. And in fact, I'm going to drag this down, lower down on the page just to get it out of our view. So this next section down here, we'll spend a minute just kind of walking through how these are, what these different tabs are and why they're in place and what you would use them for. So because we started with a product template, it's got some stuff pre-populated. In a second, we'll talk about this right-hand column, the image, the categories. But for right now, let's just start at the top. So this is a simple product. You can change this to a group of products, or you could say that it's an external or affiliate product. So if you're doing anything on like Amazon, so let's say you've got a WordPress site that you blog about camping gear that you like, that you review. And you want to say, if you like this, or if you want to check it out, go to Amazon and go buy this product from Amazon. Well, you can put in an affiliate link, and that link you get from Amazon, and you would plug it in here, and then it would let you send that traffic and get credit for that sale. And then variable product, again, it's if you've got a variation of that particular product. But for this simple product, you can also, right here, you can click on, is it a virtual product, like signing up for a Zoom class or webinar or something like that. And likewise, you can set it to be a downloadable product, which is more along the lines of an ebook or an app or a song or something like that. So I'll say next, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Let's just see what they walk us through. Price, we've already got price plugged in there. I will call out, as it skips things that I think might be helpful, I'll call it out. So sale price, you can put in and say, you know, it's 40 bucks. It's not 45. And all that's going to do is going to put a little strike through when we actually see the product. It's going to say it was 45, strike through, current price is 40. And then you can also, this is a new feature, you can set up a schedule. So you could say this sale price starts and stops based on this criteria. And then the next thing it's going to jump us to down here is the short description. We'll talk about it, and then we'll go back to this list over on the left. The short description and the long description. The long description is up top. It's the section right up here. And then the short description is just right down here. And it's exactly that. It's just a shorter version or an alternate version of the description of the product. As far as how that looks on the actual front of the site, it depends on your theme. But most e-commerce sites, when you go to a page, the product page, so you're looking at a specific product, it's going to have the name of the product, it's going to have the picture of the product, and then out to the right-hand side of it is typically where the short description would go. It's got these ingredients, fair trade, coffee sourced from Colombia, whatever it might be, the little snippets, the little details. And then down below, it's going to have the full-blown, much larger description. You see this on Amazon, whether you recognize it or not. These days, Amazon puts a whole bunch of stuff between the top section with the product image and the short description, and then you have to scroll way down past the reviews, the sponsored products, all the other stuff, and then you get down to like the full-blown big description. Same kind of concept here. Product image is over on the right, so because we started with this template, it's going to go ahead and it pre-populated this hoodie image in there. You can set up as many images as you want in the gallery for your product, but you can only pick one featured image, sorry, per product. And that featured image is what's going to be the main clickbait, essentially. It's the main product image that will show up on the front hand side here in a minute that we'll take a look at. But then down below that, and it might, if I click next, it might do that. But down to below is where we could actually put in a gallery of images that are different angles or different variations of the product. Okay, jumping up top, um, product tags. Tags are really useful, and they're useful for you as the owner of the site. They're also really useful as um, somebody who's shopping on the site, as long as they're set up the right way. And what I mean by that is you can use tags to connect the dots between products. You can put multiple products in a category and connect the dots that way. So let's say, for instance, you've got, we'll keep with the pool table thing. Let's say that you've got a like a billiards category, and in that category you've got pool cues and felt and big pool tables and small pool tables and chalk and all these other products that are in that category. But you might want to create something, a tag that connects products from different categories by way of some common thread. So for instance, sometimes we'll see things like, you know, sustainably sourced, different products in different categories, but they both have a sustainable kind of mark on them that they've been purchased or created from a sustainable spot. It could be something like free shipping. You can connect the dots between products however you might want to, and it's a great way to start to create kind of a network of ways that people can navigate within your store and within your products and within your categories. A couple questions that I want to run through real quick. Could you have selected three, uh, physical, digital, and virtual? No, you have to pick. You can have a simple product that is virtual and downloadable. So for instance, in that case, it would be let's say a Zoom call that comes with an ebook. It's virtual. You're going to get the link for the Zoom call. You're going to get the ebook through the downloadable element of that. But you do have to pick like one of these from this drop down menu. And then the other question here is, can you point out where to upload a product list again? So that was that little in between step where it said, hey, let's make your first product. Do you want to start with a template, manual, import, or I forget what the last one was. There is, and we'll circle back around to this. There is an add-on, and it might even be built right into WooCommerce these days. There is an add-on, I think, though, that is like a bulk product import option, and it's going to say give us a CSV file, and there's probably even like a template CSV file that you can download and then fill in your data, which it saves a tremendous amount of time. It does. Okay, so getting back to the product tags. Product tags, if you're new to WordPress, this part might be a little confusing, but categories and tags are very important. And I encourage you guys to take either a WordPress class from me or from somebody else that talks about categorizing content and tagging content. Because if you can think about it early on, it saves you a ton of work that you'll have to do in the future to go back through all of your stuff, your products or your posts or whatever it might be. And it really can help end users that are on your site find what they actually do want. So those are the product tags. So for this thing, you know, I could put in something like obviously pool table. You could put in something like you know, little defining keywords that might get attached to this particular thing. It's got spell check, which is nice for those of us that can't really spell that well. It's got, and so let's go ahead and add those in. Yeah, we'll leave that one in there. Next, after product tags, is going to jump us up to categories here. Categories are the same, but categories are going to be big buckets to define how products get placed in the site. And so in this case, you know, maybe I shouldn't have picked the pool table route with this product because it's a little defining just in itself. And so we might pivot at some point, and I'll show you some e-commerce sites that we have either built or have helped work on, and how they structure certain products in certain categories with certain tags and things like that. But you can see here what just their example is pretty good. Clothing is the top level of this category. And then inside of clothing, they've got a category called hoodies. So categories are what are called a hierarchical, uh, it's a hierarchical taxonomy. There's some trivia for the day. Um, Hierarchical means that there is a hierarchy to them, unlike tags. All tags have the same weight. They're all at like the same level. If a tag is small or pool table or sustainable, they all have the same weight. With categories, you can create a top level and then a sub of that, and then sub subs, and you can go as crazy as you might want to with categorizing your products, and that's true about your postings, your posts as well. So we'll leave this one as it is. Next up here, it says, go ahead and publish your product. I'm not going to publish the product yet. I'm going to click Save Draft. And then what I want to do is jump back down here and revisit this section here on the left. I know they kind of skipped past this, but there's a lot of really good information and a lot of important things in these little tabs over here. So general is where we are right now. Inventory, here's where we can come in and put in a SKU, a stock keeping unit for the products if we have that, if we keep track of those. If we're just building this store and this is our first incarnation of our store and we don't have a brick and mortar physical location, we probably don't have SKUs yet. But if you do have a physical store with SKUs, you might want to match things up to keep everything, not legitimate, but to keep everything organized between your physical store and your online store. We can enable the management of stock. And so what this means is you can say, I have 6 of these things. And then as people buy them and there's a completed checkout, it's going to remove one from that. This again is also very helpful if you have a physical store and a product or a series of products and you can't get more than 6 of them or whatever that might be. So you can turn on stock management and then put in quantities and keep track of things that way. As far as the status, the overall status of a product, this is also very helpful. In stock is what most things are going to start as. And then you could change this to be out of stock, which is going to just basically say to the customer that's trying to buy it, we don't have this right now. Or on back order, I believe what that does is it lets them put in their email address and then get notified once the product is back in stock. So we'll keep that as in stock for now. You can dictate whether or not a product can be purchased with other items or by itself only. That's rare, and I can't even think of a single case that we've needed to use this. Moving down, we've got shipping is the next one. Shipping is probably one of the most complicated things that you'll run into with e-commerce. And the best way to deal with shipping is to not deal with shipping. To either make it free and roll that cost into your price, or to legitimately not ship stuff. And so it's like, well, how do you do that? And there's a number of things that we could talk about there, but drop shipping is a really common way to just not deal with shipping at all. And drop shipping means, maybe you make the product, but somebody else is dealing with the shipping of it. Maybe you don't make the product and you just take in orders. And then when an order comes in, it either automatically notifies somebody or you manually notify somebody, hey, ship this thing out. Here's how many and to this person. And that's the best way to deal with it. Shipping gets complicated quickly. And so much so that we don't really have time in this to kind of dig through the tree of building out a whole shipping system. I will talk about it and we can look at some systems. But the easiest thing briefly is free shipping and then just roll that cost into your product. That also makes people feel good that they're getting free shipping, even if you've increased the price of the product by a little bit. I've seen that completely change people's businesses where they just turned off all shipping and just marked up each product by a little bit, and then all of a sudden their sales went through the roof. The next thing that you could do is what's called a flat rate, and you could say it's $5 if the cart is under $20. So the cart's $20 to add $5 of shipping onto it. If the cart total is 21 to 50, charge $10. And if it's 51 and higher, charge $15. That's kind of the next level into it. And then the much more complex route is to use either a zip code based system where it says my zip code is this and their zip code is this, and then you need some system to calculate the cost. And so typically that's something like FedEx, UPS, USPS, or DHL. And for all of those options, there's a separate plugin that just does that. It phones out to USPS and says, here's the starting zip code, here's the ending zip code, here's the length, width, and height of the product, and here's the weight of the product. And it does all that calculation, and it comes back and it says $6.22 to do 2-day. And then maybe there's a 1-day, and then maybe there's ground or air. So needless to say, it gets super complex very quickly. Start stuff out by just doing something basic, especially if this is your first kind of entry into this type of stuff. Make it free or just do fixed. However, if you are going to do calculations on shipping, you have to have a weight for every single product, and you have to have a length, a width, and a height. And certain companies like FedEx and UPS want to handle things differently. I forget which one's which, but one of them goes far more based on the size of the box, and the other one goes way more based on the weight of the product or the products. But it won't calculate shipping, and people won't be able to check out if you have products that they're trying to buy where you don't have this info plugged in. Linked products, upsells, and cross sells. You've probably all interacted with this on Amazon. You go to add a product to your cart, and it's like, hey, people who bought this also bought these other things, and you're like, oh, I do need those things. And they do the little plus sign. It's like, here's your product plus this thing plus this thing. Those would be cross sells to get you to add on those other items. And then an upsell is basically an increased, more expensive version of whatever it is. It's that main product plus the larger version, or plus more amenities that are connected to it, whatever it might be. Attributes is where we get into things like color, shape, size, date ranges, locations, things that might alter, either they alter the price or they just alter the end result product. So, color, like if you have a hoodie, which is what we're selling now, if it's blue or if it's green or if it's red or if it's black, it's probably the same price. So not all attributes or variations on a product will change the price. But sometimes if it's small, medium, large, they're all the same. And then extra large or XXL, it might increase the price of that. And so that's where you would get down into the attributes that are listed out. And it goes in and you can see that we can define a certain set of attributes, and then we can put in the values that are available to people. Blue, black, yellow, green could be plugged in as the values that people could select here. Okay. Advanced, this is just really an admin section for you. Purchase notes, these are notes that don't get sent, I believe these don't get sent to the user. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. The purchase notes are notes that go to the user based on them having a successful purchase of the product. So it could be something like a personalized note, like, hey, thanks for buying this. We typically ship in this amount of time. It could be just something that gets bundled up with the success email that gets sent to them after they purchase. Menu order, let's not worry about that. That's not really needed anymore. Enable reviews. There is the ability to have reviews built directly into your products in your shopping cart system. And what I found though is that most people that want to dig deep into the review system, there's really cool add-ons that do reviews, and you can aggregate reviews from Facebook and Google Marketplace and all these other places, and you can set them up to be dynamic where they scroll through, or there's little arrows to let people look at reviews. The built-in WooCommerce review system, it works. It's not great, but it's built right in there. So if you don't want to go hunting for other plugins, then you can just keep the reviews enabled here. And then get more options. This again is kind of an upsell from WooCommerce's perspective to say, hey, if you need to do any of these other slightly more complex things, you can go learn more, and here's some easy add-ons to go and find. The only one that you might want to take a look at here that we've actually used on a regular basis is this one-page checkout. Again, Amazon has just spoiled all of us the fact that you can like accidentally buy stuff. You could that little one slide thing that they have in the app, which is like, don't even ask me about my card or my shipping. Just do it. Just like send it to me. We've all gotten extremely spoiled from that type of interface and that ease. And so it's sometimes frustrating when we build a site, build a store, and there's like 3 or 4 screens. But that's how it used to be. But these days, by Amazon standards, it shouldn't be that way. All right, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover on this. I think that's good. Let me glance over at this chat here. So yeah, Chalo asked about the local pickup option, and then roll the shipping cost into the boxes that I have to ship. Yes, one of the things that you can do, and the site that, if I have time, we'll jump over into a few more, far more complex than this site that we're building. A couple complex sites, and there's a local company in town, Shanti Elixirs, and awesome company, awesome product, but their shipping matrix, their shipping setup is complex, and it was almost like we almost spent just as much time dealing with all the shipping and payment settings than we did building the site. And because they have complicated products, they have products that in some cases have living bacteria in the product, and so you can't just like ship a bottle of it's June, it's like kombucha. You can't just like ship a bottle and have it get cold and warm and cold and warm. And so there's certain products where you can only buy that one product. There's certain products where it's local pickup or local pickup only. They've got pickup at a farmer's market, but it's based on zip codes. So it's like, hey, if you're in this zip code, you can come to the store, we'll deliver it to you. You can pay to ship it if you want. And then if you're in any of these 6 zip codes, here are your options. And then if you're in any other zip code other than these 7 mentioned, here are the only options that are available to you. So it's this big tiered structured system based on zip code. But yeah, you can totally just do a local pickup and then say, based on the zip code that they plug in, what options do they have available. So I'm gonna go ahead and publish the product. And now we'll get to take a look at what this thing's actually looking like. So I've got the product published. I'm going to jump over to the second tab real quick. I'm going to refresh. Probably nothing's going to happen. I don't expect anything to happen. Okay, nothing happened. And that's because we're on the home page that currently doesn't have any store stuff. But if I click on shop, we should get the top level of the store. Okay. And so sometimes you might want, and we'll deal with this in a minute, you might want your home page to have all of your products. Like all of your products listed on the homepage, and that's fine. You might have a situation where on your homepage, you want the categories listed: hoodies, t-shirts, hats, pants, shoes. That's fine as well. And then when they click on one of those categories, it then goes into the individual products in that category. By default, this one that we've got set up here is shop, is the top level store page. Here's the individual product that we just added. There's the title that we put in. It's on sale. That says that because of the little sale price that we added. We've got a quick add to cart button, or we can click on it, and this is going to take us to what's called the single product view. It's an individual product and all the details that we just plugged in on that last screen. We've got our image that automatically zooms in. That's kind of a nice little feature that WooCommerce has in the mix there. We've got our regular price and our sale price. This was the short description that we had that was down below on the admin page. We've got a quantity, which we can increase. Add to cart. Right down here below is where we get a little breakdown of the SKU, only because we plugged it in there. A lot of times if there's a field available and you don't use it, it's not going to show up. We plugged in SKU as 001, so it did show up. And I want to talk again just for a second about categories and tags, because this is where the users can actually interact with these two things and it can really help out. So this product is in the category of hoodies. This product was tagged with miniature, pool table, and small. And so right now, if I were to click on hoodies, it's going to take me to a category page. This is one of the coolest things that WordPress does that doesn't really get like talked about a lot, but every time you create a category or you create a tag, it automatically creates a page to house all of the products that are either in that category or that have been tagged with that tag. So the really cool thing about this is that as your store grows, if you have created a proper categorizing and tagging system, these tags and these categories serve as navigation for your users without you having to do anything. So you can just say new hoodie, put it in this category, and then it's going to build out that category page. And the same thing is true about the tags. Right now, we've only got one product, and so these tags are kind of standalone. But if we created another product and tagged it with pool table or miniature or small or whatever it might be, this particular tag page would have multiple products. All right, so I'm going to go back last little bit, and then we'll dig a little bit deeper into this. So we've got the full description that shows up down here. It's the Latin text that was listed in there right below the product name that we had. We've got additional information. This is where the variations were added, and we only had one that was in there, but we could have added multiple, and this would let the user select the color that they want. And then we do have reviews active, but again, this is kind of the extent of what the review system does. It says, hey, there's no reviews on the product, but it can take in a review and you can just give it a star rating, type in a review, submit. That's kind of nice. It'll probably get spammed quite a lot if you don't put something like a CAPTCHA, or again, you might just opt for a legitimate standalone review plugin that kind of does a lot more than just the basics here. Okay, any questions that anybody wants to ask before we dig a little bit deeper into this and start walking through some slightly more complex stuff? I'll give you guys a minute if you want to put anything in there. Otherwise, we're going to just jump back in. All right, I'm going to jump back in. I'm gonna keep jumping back to their tutorial, mainly because this will be standardized. Their tutorial will be standardized across all of the installs that you guys might do. So if you're at Bluehost or GoDaddy or wherever, you're gonna be able to follow the same roadmap. You can come back and watch this video as well if you forget about the steps, but I'm just gonna keep using their little walkthrough here. So we plugged in the store details. We added a product. A couple of these next things we can't dig super deep into, and I'll explain why. They are important, and I'm going to try to illustrate and talk about the different options that are available. But I don't have I already have a PayPal account and a Stripe account, and they're set up for active stores, so I can't just like link another payment system in the mix easily. But we'll go walk through these, and I'll talk about why they're needed, what you can do, and hopefully ways that you can save some money in this process. So payments, there's two like little tricky things. Two of the most tricky things within setting up a store are payment gateways and shipping gateways. And that term gateway basically just means it's a path to process payment and it's a path to deal with shipping. But you got to set those up. You got to have some kind of payment system in place to take money. You can do like check or COD. You probably don't want to. But these days, most of us either have interacted with PayPal and or Stripe, or we have our bank calling us constantly, making offers to process cards for online payments. So let me lay this stuff out from my perspective here. Use either Stripe or PayPal, or both. You can set up both of them. They take the same cut as far as the processing fee. It's 2.9% of the total transaction fee plus 30 cents per transaction. 2.9% plus 30 cents last time I checked. Both Stripe and PayPal take that same amount. And they're both free to create an account. And they're pretty easy to interact with. You just go set up an account. It's going to want to know your bank account information. It's going to make two small withdrawals, like 6 cents and 15 cents. that you then have to go into your bank account and confirm these are the amounts so that it can validate the fact that you do own that account. So both will ask you to do that. I like Stripe better, and Stripe has become kind of the primary virtual merchant is the term that we're going to use. So payment gateway is the concept, and then the company that actually does this will be your virtual merchant. They're going to charge the cards virtually, essentially. So PayPal's been around for 20 years now, maybe, and they were fine. They were ahead of their game back in the day, and then they just got complacent, in my opinion. They didn't really evolve that much, and then finally somebody at Stripe was like, we can do this better. We can charge the exact same amount, but we can just make the process and the interface just smoother. And they did that a number of years ago. So PayPal, that forced PayPal to kind of step up their game, which they did as well, which is great. That's what competition in the market does here. So they both take the same amount. They're both just as easy to set up. You can have both in place, and you can have options when people go through checkout to either pay with their card, their credit card, directly on the website, and that would be the Stripe option, or you can offer up PayPal. The problem with PayPal is that PayPal kind of makes it seem like you have to have a PayPal account to use PayPal. You don't, but they want as many people to be using their service as possible. So the downside of having only PayPal is that some people hate PayPal, and if you don't have the ability for people to just put in their card right on your site, they might not buy the product. Other people love PayPal, and they keep credit cards and debit cards on file at PayPal, and that way they don't have to go find their wallet, and they can just buy something, use PayPal, log right in. It's going to charge their card by way of PayPal. I'm in both boats. If I go to buy something online and I see that it's a secure site, it's got a little lock up in the top corner, then I'm okay putting my card onto that website. But I also keep a slight balance in my PayPal account, and I also have a couple cards on file in PayPal, so I can quickly use that if I don't have my wallet near me. I can just say, yep, I just want to use PayPal, take it from my balance, or use this particular card that's on file. So I recommend doing both. The one main thing that I want to stress at this point is that a lot of us have our bank contacting us trying to say, hey, you can process payments with us, and we will do it for cheaper than what PayPal or Stripe will charge you. And that is true. The problem is that your bank hasn't created a handy dandy integration with your WooCommerce install to just make it work like that. So on the flip side, while they're going to charge less to process cards, you might spend thousands paying some web developer to create an API handshake between your bank and your store. And so what you might save long term can be extremely frustrating early on. And we've had this this happen quite a bit where people say, I've already got payment taken care of, I'm doing it with BB&T, and I got a great rate. And I'm like, ask them for the API documentation that we're going to need to set all this stuff up. And they send us like a 60-page PDF. I'm like, we got to take a lot of time now to make this happen. So, and then a question that just came in about Woo Payments. So this top one, Woo Payments, is brand new. They just in the past 4 to 5 months maybe got this set up. They created their own payment gateway. The only reason I skipped past it is because I have zero experience with it. It just got rolled out. But yeah, thanks for calling that out, because that is like obviously the giant purple box up at the top here. Give it a shot, and I'll probably set it up on an upcoming site just to see. Again, 2.9 and 30 cents is the standard that everybody goes at to be competitive with it. So my guess is that they've made it very easy to get involved with WooCommerce payments. Okay, so Stripe, PayPal, WooCommerce. The other little one that's floating out there is authorize.net, and a lot of banks use authorize.net to handle the card processing. They may say, BB&T might say, this is ours, but they're actually running it all through authorize.net. Still, it's just as good from a processing standpoint. It is a little bit more complex to set it up sometimes. It's geared more towards like developers, and they ask for some credentials and API keys that might be challenging for you to go in and just find, in that interface. And then last on here, there is COD, cash on delivery, and then direct bank transfer as well. So I'm going to jump back. I'm not going to do any of those because again, if we start down that path, it's going to very quickly need username and password to create that handshake between Stripe or PayPal or authorize.net or the WooCommerce gateway. All right, so next thing on here is to set up tax. Taxes, you need to charge it. You need to charge it. You need to take that tax from the folks that you're selling products to, and then you need to pay that tax. I am not an accountant, but that's what I know to be the case. And tax varies based on state, and it varies within the state, and it's a nightmare to try to keep up with that manually. So get some service that does that. Jetpack and WooCommerce Tax help do that to a small degree, and they will populate all the states, and they'll grab all the current rates of the tax that you need, and then it stays up to date fairly regularly if there are changes within those states. The reporting is not great. It does what it needs to do, but again, if you're doing a lot of volume inside of your site, you might want to consider something like TaxJar, which is a different website, different service. And there is a fee associated with it. It's not a whole lot. I don't think it's, $20 a month starter, which might seem like a lot, but if you are doing, thousands of dollars a month or more, it's probably worth it. You can also set up manually, and you can go through, and here's where you could plug in the specific taxes. And this was the only thing that we used to have access to. You would have to go, and somebody one day made a website blog post that was like, here's all the current taxes for all the states and all the zip codes. And that was like gold, because you no longer had to go and track them all down and go to all these different places to get them. But so you can manually do that. The better option, though, is to use some kind of automated system that keeps up to date. All right, back to the top. Shipping. Again, make it free if you can. Roll that cost of the shipping into the product. Make sure that you're not getting burned. Keep track of how much it costs you to ship stuff, and it's going to be based on the weight and the box size or the envelope, and then how far it's going, and whether it's business or residential. But free is the easiest option to do. The other option here is just to say, $5, and then like the rest of the world is $15. There's also there's a shipping label. This is an add-on that if I click install and enable, it's going to grab a little add-on. It's going to give us the ability to print shipping labels. That's pretty cool. It's built right into it. And that one kind of looped us back around automatically. And now we get to probably the more interesting part of this, which is, how's this thing going to look? What's it going to look like? I struggle with, how much time to spend in these classes on the theme, and then how much time to spend on what we just did. And so I always like to cover the boring stuff, but the important stuff. It's the essential stuff. If you don't understand shipping and payments and taxes and all this stuff, it doesn't matter what your store looks like. So, they constantly try to push you into go play around with themes right off the bat. And I try to not do that, specifically when I'm teaching these classes, because I've seen frustration with people that have come to me in tears, and they're like, I tried to get my site set up, and I went and I picked a theme, and then I'm like, oh, you did that first. You really need to get a handle on your content, the settings, and the structure, and get stuff in there. Get some sample content, some sample products, play around with the images, the galleries, see what it's going to look like with a very kind of plain Jane vanilla theme, which is what we did. So, but at this point, we're going to transition. It's 4:15. We have 45 minutes. I'm going to spend probably 15 minutes working with this storefront theme. I'm going to spend about another 15 minutes looking at a theme called Divi, and specifically some of the e-commerce layout options that they have in Divi. And then we'll have 15 minutes for questions if there are any, or for me to kind of talk about some of these other add-ons that people might be interested in. as well as to go kind of look at a few e-commerce sites that we've had involvement with, so that you can kind of get examples of how far some of these things can go. Okay, so personalize my store. So the first thing here is it wants us to create the home page. So I'll go ahead and follow their logic here and their blue buttons. So upload an image. Let's see if there's anything in here. There's really not. I'll go pick got a folder right here, just some stock photos. So we'll throw this little tree logo in there. Again, briefly, this is not a building a WordPress website. This is focused on e-commerce, but if you haven't done too much inside of WordPress, there's a built-in file uploader, and this is the interface for it. You can just upload images from your computer. Little tiny bit about images, specifically because images are so crucial these days, but they also are such a detriment to load time. Make sure to optimize your images. This logo that I'm putting in here is 512 pixels by 512 pixels. That's pretty big for a logo that's going to sit real small up in the corner. So it's actually going to squish that way down. So I'm forcing the user to load an image that's bigger than it gets displayed at. And this is a very small example of that. If you take a picture with your phone, that picture is enormous. And then if you go to just upload it straight to your site, it's still enormous, even if it gets scaled down really small. So optimize your images, scale them down, name them. And I can't stress that enough. Name your images. And that helps out a lot with somebody on Leicester Highway revving their engine. So I'm going to select this logo. We will proceed. And then a notice that goes across all pages on your store. Let's say something like 15% off, holiday sale. I don't even know where that message is going to go. I've never seen that before. We'll say complete the task. Okay, so that helped us personalize the store. The next thing that I want to do, though, is we're going to go to appearance. And this is where we can dig a little bit deeper in and really fine tune what this store is going to look like. So real quick, let me go back to the home and we'll just take a look. Does anything change? We've got a goofy logo now. We've got a go shopping. We've got a new product section. And this all got loaded onto the home page. So at some point in one of these steps, it said, hey, WordPress, don't load that one blog post. Load this home page. And it pulled in a couple images. They're goofy. They're oddly placed. We're not going to worry about that right now. It's got our one product. It's got a little go shopping button. That just is what it is. If we go to the shop, let's see if anything changed there. Nope, still looking the same. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back to our admin side. This screen that we're on here is where we could change the theme completely. But before we do that, we're going to kind of inch into this. So I'm going to go in and say customize. This is the WordPress theme customizer. And so again, we'll walk through their little tutorial here. So let's go customize your navigation menus, the menu section. So here we can go in and we could create a new menu. So this is not necessarily about playing with the design of the site, but this is something that is useful information. We'll say create a new menu, and the menu is going to be called something like main menu. Main menu. And it's going to show up in the primary menu location. That's that main spot that's right below our logo there. And so now we have a menu, and now we need to add items to that menu. So, rarely in this case would we have, we're not going to want sample page on there, I know that. We probably don't even really want cart or checkout, maybe, but there's probably going to be a little cart icon. So we can kind of pick and choose what we want here. Again, this is more of like a building your website from the ground up type of tutorial, but it's kind of helpful in this. So we'll say, yeah, we definitely need a home page. We definitely need a shop page. We'll put the sample page in there pretending like that's an about page or a contact page or something like that. And then maybe the My Account page. So now that we've got that in place, we'll just go ahead and save it. And we have now taken over what was like the cookie cutter pre-built menu, and we've created an actual menu that is ours. All right. I do want to show one last thing related to the menus. I'll click add again, and I do want to show that down here below, we get more than just pages. So you can put any type of content into your menu. So for instance, you might want to have product categories, like in this case, hoodies or clothing. And in this case, we can drag them up and we can create some sub items underneath our shop item there. So that's true. You can use product tags, product categories, all these different things. And so now we'll publish, and now we get that that little drop down right there under shop. Okay, jumping back into the full customizer here. We got the menu in place. We can choose an accent color. So now we'll go into the typography one, and we want to choose an accent color based on whatever our logo is, based on our color palette, whatever that might be. So let's see here. I'm going to go in heading color. You know, maybe we want to go after that green. We would need to open up Photoshop or some program to pick out that green color and see what it actually is. If I go through and just change this, the cool thing about WordPress these days is you get this live update of the actual content of the actual site, so you can see what's happening and what's changing. And so in this case, that green, I tried to get kind of close to the logo, but it's pretty far off. Let's go you know, maybe that's a little bit closer. So there's our green. Our regular text color, let's make that black, make it a little bit darker there. Our link accent color, let's let this get done. Our link accent color, let's go with something like red. I'm just going to make this as hideous as I can possibly make it in less than a minute. Our hero heading color, we don't even really have a hero heading anything, so we can't really do anything there. And so we'll move on from the colors, but the idea there is that you can go through and kind of fine tune. Again, all of these settings are specific to the theme that we have now. So if you know for a fact that you're going to be changing your theme altogether, you don't have to take the time to customize this. But I wanted to kind of enter slowly into the customizer and talk a little bit about it. Now we get into buttons. So background color of the buttons. I think that search products right there is probably one of them. Let's make it a little darker and see. That one didn't do it, but my guess is that, so those buttons right down there, the individual product buttons. Again, text color, alternate button color, so on and so on. And I'll make sure that we republish. And now what I want to do is, let's just kind of scan through a few of these other things. I'll click done and get that little pop-up out of the way. WordPress, if you don't know, is intentionally redundant. There's a lot of things that show up in multiple places, and they do that because they don't know how people are going to navigate the system. Different skill levels, different ages, different backgrounds, different levels of tech savviness. So they try to put things in a lot of places. So as we click through some of these things, we've probably already dealt with or seen some of these options already in other places. So site identity, we did that. We put the logo in. But now we also have site title. So let's, call this like, Boomer's Pool Shop. And then we've got a tagline right down below. The site title and the tagline show up or don't show up based on your theme. I'm not seeing anywhere where it says Boomer's Pool Shop, with the exception of it'll show up in the tab when you hover over the tab. But because we've got the logo in here, the logo takes over and says, don't show the site title, show the logo. But we can put those in there. And then also here, a site icon or a favicon. This is the little picture that shows up in the tab next to the name of the site that you're on. And it gives you a little preview down there. So that's the site identity. Header, again, we kind of went through some of this stuff, but let's see if we can set an image here and see what happens. And we'll get that nice little mountain scene in there. I assume it's going to load that back behind. Yeah, whew, that's rough. So it's going to load that in there, and it says, hey, you should have put a bigger image in here. It's repeating now. This is on a really big screen, but that's obviously pretty bad. So I'm going to hide that image, and we'll close that one and bring that back to how it was. Okay. We'll jump back. Footer, obviously it's going to go down. A lot of these are just setting basic colors, so I'm going to skip past a lot of these. That's just the background color of the footer. We've got the background of the entire website right here. And so by default, it's that white, or we can go around and find something that's a little off-white just to give a little divider between the header section and the body section. We already visited this section as far as the coloring there. Same with the buttons. Overall layout, this is going to be determined by, again, by the theme that we're using. And this is basically saying, should the content area sit on top or behind or below the actual menu section there? And we can kind of see a little preview of what that's going to look like. All right, menus we dealt with. Widgets I don't really want to dig into right now. I want to move on, but widgets are little blocks of content that show up on various pages. So for instance, this search products right here, that would be a little widget that would show up. You would use widgets for things like newsletter signups or you know, physical address information, or maybe like a little map, things like that, or a button that's like your call to action, like get a quote now, something like that. Typically, those would be housed inside of widgets. We've got our home page needs to be set to an actual home page. This was the setting that we would have changed if it hadn't have done this for us, where by default it was show your latest posts on the home page, and that's why we had that one blog post showing by default. We've got specific settings based on WooCommerce. This I do want to take a look at. That store notice. Remember, it popped up and asked us for that, so I plugged that one in. Product catalog. I've mentioned a few times that, you know, on the shop page, you can either show your categories or you could show your products, and this is where you would pick that. On your shop page, choose what to display: show products, show categories, or show both. Same thing on your category page. What do you want to show? And so these are set, you know, fairly standard. How do things get sorted, and then how many products show up per row? Your individual product page, there's a sticky add to cart, so it's a little tiny button that ties it up to that. And then the pagination shows you, you know, page 1, page 2, page 3 of products, and you can choose to show those or not. Product images and how they get cropped and clipped. 1-to-1 just means it's a square, like we can see right down here, or we could say custom, or just don't crop anything. Try to standardize all your images, whether you pick cropped or square or some size. Just try to keep them all consistent, and that's tough sometimes because products change in size and shape. And then as far as how the checkout process goes, this is basically asking, should some of these fields be shown or not shown, required or not required. My advice both for checkout and this is true about forms in general, wherever they show up on your website, make forms as short as possible. The more fields you can cut out of the mix, the more likely you will be to have people actually go through your process, whether that's a form or whether that's checkout. Make as many things not required as possible, and hide as many fields as you just don't really need. So, you know, phone number required, yeah, maybe. Let's hide address line 2, maybe. Let's hide company name. And then this is also where it would ask what our privacy policy page and our terms of service, terms and conditions page are going to be. By default, WordPress these days does create a privacy policy page. that kind of gets you moving in the right direction. I am no lawyer. If you have, you know, you should have a privacy policy page. You should at least use the cookie cutter one. You should then probably read through it and maybe beef it up a little bit more based on what you are or are not doing. These days, if you're tracking people through Google Analytics or heat maps or any of these tools, you need to tell them that. You need to say, we're tracking with these different things, and here's why, and here's what we do with it. And that's appropriate these days. All right, I'm going to publish that. That is the end of our uh, WooCommerce theme customizer for this particular theme. So at this point, what I want to do is let's go back. We'll refresh on the home page. Not a whole lot's changed here. Oh, we're on the shop page. Boring page, but it is what it is. We now see that it's got the name of the business, the site name showing up. We've got that little favicon, the little icon showing up in the tab. And so now what I want to do is I want to spend a couple minutes. We're going to shift over to a different theme. It's a big increase. It's a big jump up. And we're going to kind of walk through, and I'll show you, like, this is like crawling as far as themes are concerned, and we're about to skip walking, running, and we're going to jump way past that completely. And then, so a question from C on here, do they offer recommended image sizes? Image sizes are, I don't want to call them complex because they're not super complex, but they're super specific based on what you're doing. What I mean by that is, you know, if you're selling high-end artwork, you're not going to want to scale your images down to the size that I would recommend because you want them to be crisp and pop and look good. We deal with this with real estate agents all the time. They don't want crummy photos of the homes that they're trying to sell. I get that. But if the sites don't load because the images are too big, that's a problem in itself. So image sizes, you know, the product images, if we were to go actually into the specific product here, and we go into the specific image, let's let that load. You can put as big of a photo in here as you might want to. And it's going to do this little zoom based thing. It's going to give you either the click on it and give you the big version of it, or if you hover around, it's going to give you like a perspective zoom on it. My advice here is product images, the biggest version should probably be 800 to 1,000 pixels. In the end, the picture that we're looking at on the screen right here, that's probably 350 by 350 or 400 by 400. Use something bigger than that, because when they actually, if they do want to click on it and get a bigger version, you don't want it to be the exact same. So maybe, you know, 800 pixels. And then from a sizing standpoint, you know, the kilobyte size or the megabyte size matters as well. So the smaller the image pixel wise, the smaller the kilobytes as well. If you want a general rule of thumb for kilobyte size, 80 kilobytes is about as big as you might want a single image to be. And then a question from Shiloh about, can you talk about site security? How secure are customers' info? So the main thing with security, I would say, is you have to have an SSL, which stands for Secure Socket Layer. You'll never need to know that, but an SSL is what gives you the little lock. It's what makes it HTTPS secure. And you cannot have an e-commerce site without an SSL. And these days, you shouldn't have any website without an SSL. Everybody should have an SSL on their website. The server that you're on might offer free SSLs. It's a program called Let's Encrypt. Do that if you can. If you can't, you can get an SSL from a company like Namecheap. And GoDaddy also would sell them, but the Namecheap SSLs are like 10 bucks. GoDaddy's are like 80 bucks for the year. From a security standpoint related to cards, credit card data and things like that, using PayPal, Stripe, or the WooCommerce system, you're not liable or responsible for that. They put in the information. As long as you have an SSL on your site, the data is going to go to Stripe. They're going to charge the card. They're going to check the card. They're going to charge it if it's valid. If it's not valid, they'll give you a log of all the stuff, about the details. And then they're going to return that person back to your website. They're going to process the card, take the money, and then in some cases hold that money for a couple days, and then they'll deliver the money into your account. So it's very secure from that standpoint. You just need to make sure that you're not asking people for information that you shouldn't ask them for. You definitely cannot just have a form on your site that's like, put in your credit card info. That is very illegal and you shouldn't do it. So make sure you're at least using a virtual merchant to process the cards. All right. So I want to jump into Divi. This might seem a little rushed, but we've got 24 minutes to play around with this. I talk about Divi in other classes. I teach a Divi class, and Divi is D-I-V-I, and it's a theme that is built by a company called Elegant Themes. We've got it right here. I'm going to install it. It's not a free theme, but it's not a very expensive theme, and I think it's about $90 for the year, and it unlocks a lot of capabilities. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second as we get it installed and activated. The cool thing about Divi is that there's about 200 different layouts all inside of the same theme. Now, the storefront theme has a similar system. Storefront is the theme that we were just using that was built by WordPress and WooCommerce. And they have like variations of the storefront theme that you can get for free. There's a couple, and then some that you can buy for like 30, 40 bucks. In my opinion, if you're going to pay 30, 40 bucks to get a slightly cooler theme, pay twice that much and get something that just blows the doors off of anything that you think would be possible with a site design. Yeah, I think it's $90 per year, and the company here is Elegant Themes, and they're pricing 89 bucks for the year. I don't make any money off of this. I'm not like an affiliate or anything, but I'm a hardcore Divi fan for years and years and years now. And I would say that we've built probably 150 Divi websites in the past 5 years. They all look very, very different, and it's the one theme that we use these days if we have the choice. So I've added the theme. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to activate the theme, and this just says, hey, Divi should be the main theme. This other one that was in there, it's still in the system, but it's not active. And we can see that now that this is at that top level. If I were to click just directly on appearance, it goes straight to the themes screen. We've got a handful of themes in place already. There was the storefront theme that we were using a few minutes ago. And now Divi is this active primary theme. So now if I go to the front of the website and I click the logo, it's going to completely change. It's not going to look great yet, but it's completely changed. We still have that little open window. We still got our product stuff. Nothing's really changed. It did lose our logo. That's fine. We got this new blue that shows up. So the true benefit of this is what I'm getting ready to show you. And this is the fact that there are these different layout packs. So I'm on the home page. I'm going to enable the visual builder. One of the things with Divi that you got to get used to is it just takes a little bit longer. There's a little bit of a lag because it's doing so much more. The lag on building out a Divi site doesn't always mean it will lag for customers or users on the website. If you're using a quality server and if you've optimized your images, you can get a Divi website to load just as fast or faster than any other type of site. So, but that's a common thing that I hear is like Divi takes too long. I'm like, well, maybe you just didn't optimize along the way, or you're paying $6 a month for the cheapest possible hosting plan that you can get. Nothing's going to run quickly at that kind of entry level server. There's this little welcome message. I'm going to go ahead and just say start building. And so the other cool thing about Divi in this case, and there's a few of these types of themes out there. There's Divi is the most popular, Elementor, and Beaver Builder. Those are the three that are pretty popular that you might have heard about. And they all have this kind of like visual drag and drop type of interface. So when I say, hey, I want to make this homepage a Divi page, it says, all right, what do you want to do? Use the existing content? No, because that content was boring and cookie cutter anyway. We can choose a layout, which is what we're going to do, or we can clone another page, but we haven't really built any pages, so we have nothing to clone yet. So we'll choose this middle option, choose a pre-made layout. It is going to ask me to put in my API validation key in just a second here, but there's 207 layout packs. Each layout pack is a unique style, fonts, colors, images, that's been built by somebody, and they've spent lots of time to kind of push the design in a certain direction. We can filter down based on category over here. So I'm going to click on online store. And now we have 21 different layout packs that have some element of um, shopping. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that in just a second. But there was one that I looked at right before I did this, and it's this dog food one that was kind of cute and clever. So if you hover over one of these, it kind of scrolls through and shows you what that layout pack is going to look like. If I click on it, these are the 7-page templates inside of this layout pack. So this is one of the layout packs, and these are 7 of the individual pages in the layout pack. And as we can see here, we've got a home page, a landing page, a contact page, a blog page, all these different pages. We're editing the home page right now. So I could either click on home page and scroll through and like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Or I can do landing page. I typically do landing page because it's got more of the elements of all the other pages, and so it gives you a better understanding of all the different pieces that you're going to get to work with in that layout pack. So I'll say let's load the landing page, and I'll say use this layout, and here's where it's going to want my API key, and this is, you'll get this if you get a membership with Elegant Themes. And it's going to take, I don't know, 20-30 seconds here, and it's downloading all these images from the server. It goes quicker in just a second, I promise. There we go. And in just a second, once this finishes, we'll just save the page, and we'll go look at what this just did. And it's the complete overhaul of the entire site. When I teach a class on WordPress or Divi specifically, we do an entire site build in like less than 5 minutes. And it's ridiculous how quickly you can do stuff like this these days, and how good some of this stuff can look. And then the work becomes, well, you got to go change out all the Latin, you got to go change out all the dog biscuits for whatever. But you know, this is all unique to this particular layout. So I'm going to go ahead and just click save. So I have just loaded this entire layout onto the home page. And so as I hover around on the site, and this is not a Divi tutorial, but I just want to give you a little snippet of how you interact with this stuff. You know, if you like that big yellow swoosh, but you're not selling cookies, well, you can click on that, and you can change the cookie image to whatever your product is, and it'll drop on top of that big yellow swoosh. Or you can say, you know what, I don't really like that swoosh at all, and I want to just put in a big background image, and that's fine. You can come in here and you can, you know, completely manipulate all of the text within this, as well as the text box, as well as within the button. If you don't want it to say shop online, but say something like shop now, you can just go in and change that. And then as we move down the site, we basically can hover over any block of text, any picture, and start swapping stuff out. And this becomes the actual work associated with building out a site with using Divi. And so if we get down here to, you know, popular products, well, these are manually inserted. They were pulled in by this layout. But what we have right down here, there is our hoodie that we've been messing with. That's that $45 marked down to $40. There's our hoodie. So this gray box that's loading in on the home page right now is basically a product feed. And that's why this particular layout is in the category of online sales. So if I were to click on the settings for this one block in the mix of all these other blocks is specific to products. And it says, you know, what's the title? So let me move this out to the side a little bit. These are the best-selling products. It's going to show a maximum of 8 right here, but we only have 1 product right now at the moment. How many columns is it going to pull it into? And how do we want to sort the order? And then we can get really granular with this. We can get down into, let's say, for instance, under design, we can go through and we can say, yes, show the star rating or don't show the star rating based on reviews that have come in. You know, what particular image, or how does the title get shown, or how does the price get shown? You say, you know what, the price, that needs to be like way bigger. And this is what's so cool about Divi is it's just this drag and drop visual interface that you can just pull this window to the side, play around with the styling, and then just say, yep, that's what I want right there, save it, and then you just keep on moving down. Again, you could, just pop that weird, goofy stuffed animal out of the mix, or you could change it with something else. There's that background swoosh. That's part of that big blue box. It's also, a lot of times, it's got these little elements of functionality built in with these layouts. So this is a newsletter sign up. So the cool thing here is that we could go in and, a lot of times we're going to want to have a newsletter sign up box, and we might use something like Constant Contact or, MailChimp or something like that. Well, these, a lot of times we'll have, if you use this like email opt-in, which was part of the layout that we loaded, we now get this big old list. Well, if you're using Constant Contact, you choose that, you can automatically dump people into a particular list if you're using that service. So Divi kind of crosses the line or straddles the line between theme, and it is a theme, but themes and plugins. Divi can do a lot of stuff that you would otherwise need to go find a bunch of plugins to do. And that's one benefit, but that's also an overwhelming factor of it. If you're just learning WordPress, if you're just jumping into WooCommerce, to throw Divi on top of it, you're tackling a whole big old thing all at once. And it can be tough to kind of compartmentalize what you're doing and where you're doing it. So I try to hold off on this, but I also try to give people a glimpse of, you can build a super basic store and really have no idea what you're doing other than what we've just walked through. But then you can wrap it with a Divi layout, and all of a sudden it looks like you know exactly what you're doing. And a lot of times, it's good to have the balance between both. You need to have an understanding of shipping and payment and products and how to work with those. But if you can get your, I don't want to say your ego, but if you can get more excited about the site and the project by having it look really cool, do that. But don't skim past the true essence of building the store that works well. That's still really important. And that's something that Divi doesn't really have a lot to do with. So I'll save this. Question from Shiloh: are there any themes comparable to Divi? None that come close. There are some that are the drag and drop interface. I think that I wonder if Avada is one theme, but I think you have to pay for Avada. Avada is a drag and drop, $60. Elementor is a plugin, and they do have a free plugin that does some basic stuff, but then they have, so for instance, if you want the templates, well, they've got 30 templates in this free version. So Elementor is not a bad one. A lot of times we end up rebuilding Elementor sites to use Divi because it just kind of reaches the end of its capacity, essentially, based on what the client wants it to do. It's not, they haven't put as much development time or money or effort or documentation into it. So it's a bit of a struggle from a learning curve standpoint. There's a wealth of knowledge out there about Divi. So you can just like Google anything, and there's a tutorial that was produced by them to walk you through that process. So the last little thing that I want to do, I'm going to exit the visual builder. We've got this saved as the home page. And I want to load one more page. And what we'll do here is, let me let this finish. I'll go to the shop page. And actually, in this case, what I'm going to do is I'll create a brand new page. Well, I thought this would be quick. There we go. I'm going to call this one Shop Online. And we'll use the Divi builder. And then I'm going to go back and find one more of those layouts that was specifically for the shop thing. And I'm just curious. I've never used this layout pack. I've never loaded this particular layout into it. And I'm just curious what they put onto the store page. It's going to give us that same 3-column choice that we had before. Well, there's our little 15% off holiday sale. That's kind of nice that it anchors it down at the bottom. So we'll choose that center column. We'll go back down to online store. We'll go back down to the pet supply layout. We'll pick the shop layout and we'll say use this layout. And while this is loading, if anybody's got any last minute questions, throw them into the chat. You can also email me. I'll throw my email into the chat here. I make no guarantees on the speediness of my response, but it's there. So we've got our shop here. Oh, that's kind of cool. There's like a little bit of movement to that one. That's neat. That little, I mean, it's kind of a stupid little chew toy, but it's cool that it slides across as you scroll down. That's kind of neat. That's called parallax. We've got 3 different categories that we could link to 3 different sections of the store. We've got our product there. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and publish that one. There's our little sign up again. We've got our 4-column footer section. And I will exit the visual builder. And then I'm just going to click into this product and see if the product page has also changed. I don't think that it has. I think you have to load a specific product layout for this. But now we can see a slightly different look and feel. So now we've got our tabs running across here for the extra information, rather than running down that left-hand side. We've got our same kind of hover state. We've got our add to cart, and yeah, cool. We got 8 minutes left. If anybody's got questions, if not, I want to talk about a couple other little add-ons that are out there. One of them, so we talked about, subscriptions and bookings and all this kind of stuff. I'm going to go now just over to WordPress.org. We'll go to plugins. And actually, I'm sorry, let me go to WooCommerce directly. There's a ton of plugins out there. There's a ton of there's like 60,000 plugins. There's probably 2,000 to 3,000 WooCommerce plugins. And they do all kinds of stuff. If I were to go up in here and let's go to, payment, and let's go look at see all payment methods. There's just an array of payment specific, things that you can go in and look at and interact with. If we go back and we do, let's go down to subscription. So this is one that was talked about that we've used a handful of times. There are some simple ways to do subscriptions. You can just have a subscription type of product and then link it to Stripe, which does a subscription recurring charge. And then you can manage the subscriptions either over at Stripe within their dashboard or within your site. So if somebody wants to cancel their subscription, you can go to either place and cancel it, and they'll talk to each other, which is kind of nice. Once you get into membership and having content behind what's called a paywall, it does get significantly more complicated. If I were to go to, let me see if there's a quick and easy way that I can find what I'm looking for. There is a plugin called WooCommerce Memberships that helps deal with that. And here's where we start getting into the cost associated with building out some of these sites. WooCommerce is free, WordPress is free, hosting you have to pay for, but the add-ons can start stacking up significantly if you're building a big complex site. If you're doing a subscription site with membership, and what that means is subscription, you want to charge them on a monthly, quarterly, yearly basis, and then as long as they renew, they have access to content or stuff on your website, and then that is handled by the membership plugin. So here's where we've got two $200 plugins right off the bat that we might need to interact with. But this would let you govern who can and cannot see content and what content they might be able to see on your site. If you're doing, I've got a friend that's doing a recipe site, and she's got recipes out there for free. But then if you want to see like the special recipes that she spent a lot more time on, you got to pay and you got to have a membership, and you only get to see that content if you are an active member. So those are some of the add-ons that can be pulled into the mix. The other ones that I jotted down that I wanted to mention are you can do customizable products where you can actually have a product that people can like drag and upload images onto. So let's say you have a product that you make that can be customized by the end user. There's a product customization plugin out there. There's a plugin, there's an add-on for WooCommerce for like anything that you can think of. If you come up with something and you can't find the plugin, let me know and we'll build it, because there's so many of them out there that do so much stuff. Um, so I guess with that, let's see. We got 4 minutes left. Let me glance over my list and make sure that I at least covered all the stuff. Um, Bookings are another big element. If you've got any kind of like cabin rentals or kayaking rentals or any kind of rentals whatsoever, and you need a booking system, this is robust and complex, but it can handle what you need it to do. So we've used this for camps that have 10 cabins, and they have different capacities at each cabin. There's 8 bunks in one, there's 20 in another, there's 2 in another. You can manage all of those calendars individually. We've done this for like a big bed and breakfast that's got different types of rooms that have different amenities and different prices associated with all of those. This can get pretty intense pretty quickly as well. Um, I will throw out a couple options here, and I mentioned this at the beginning, and I'll use this last couple minutes to wrap this up. And that is that if WooCommerce seems too intense, and you don't need to have a full-blown store, and you're just trying to like sell one product, you can do that without WooCommerce. There's a plugin out there called Gravity Forms, and this class was about building a site, an e-commerce store, with WordPress and WooCommerce. So we spent, an hour and 58 minutes on that. But if you just need literally like one product that you want to sell, this does it. And you can have a Gravity form that you collect information and then link it to Stripe or link it to PayPal. And there's not a full-blown checkout, but it's like check the card information, securely charge it, send the person a notification about it, and then that's the end of transaction. They're not going to have the ability to log in and see order history and all that stuff, but it gets the point across. So that's an option as well. Question: should I build my site in SiteGround or on WordPress? So let me refine that a little bit. There's WordPress.com and there's WordPress.org, and I need to log out so I can actually even show you this. There's WordPress.com, which you don't want to go towards. WordPress.com is like a training wheels version of WordPress. WordPress.org is the actual WordPress platform that we've spent all this time talking about. And WordPress.org, you have to host somewhere. GoDaddy, SiteGround, HostMonster, Bluehost, one of these companies. I always recommend go get hosting, go get WordPress specific hosting. They will set up the WordPress site for you. And so the hosting doesn't really matter. It's really more about, customer service and pricing, but they all are pretty good as far as pricing is concerned. If you want like the Mac Daddy top level, but still kind of entry from a cost standpoint, Kinsta or WP Engine are the two that I would recommend. And both are going to be about $30 a month to start. And that's one website, one WordPress install. But I think they're both right there. WP Engine's at 25, Kinsta's at 30. Kinsta's one of the best hosting companies I have ever worked with, and we give them lots of money every month to manage our biggest clients. So these are great options, and they will hold your hand through this process. And the tech support's phenomenal at both companies. Hopefully that answered that question, Shiloh. And so you can set up a site somewhere and you can move it if you need to later. So it's 5 o'clock. Thank you, everybody. I think everybody hung in for the whole time. I didn't look at what the participant count was when we started, but if anybody does have follow-up questions, hit me with an email. My email's in the chat. If you've got feedback, good or bad, give it to me, give it to Dwayne. If there's a topic that you want me to cover in another class, again, mention it to me or mention it to Dwayne. I do list all the classes that I teach. I do put those on our website at bigboomdesign.com. under classes, and so the whole schedule of upcoming stuff is on here. And I'm doing a Divi class on the 21st, followed by some WordPress stuff, and I've got about 4 or 5 other events coming up that I'll put on here in the next week or so. So thanks everybody. Appreciate everybody hanging in there. I'm gonna awkwardly shut all this stuff down as I find my windows.